Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. So for this video we're going to learn a little bit about the WordPress command line interface and how that tool works, more specifically on Windows, but I'll show you kind of some of the steps for installing on other systems as well. So to start, I usually like to start off with a joke. So for today's joke, what did the pirate say when he turned 80? "Aye, matey." WordPress CLI. There's many ways to kind of approach it and install it and whatnot and even use it. I don't know how in depth we want to get into it, but essentially what you can do is type WP and you can kind of get back a list of the various commands that we can run. So in this case, one of the main ones that I use is the WP core. So if we wanted to kind of see how that works or looks, you can see the rest of these commands here. I can do WP core, and then we can get even more commands after that. So what would we want to do? Check for updates, download, install. So in this directory, we don't have anything in here, so I would want to do WP core and download. And what that does is it goes out and fetches the latest version of WordPress and downloads it to your system locally. So this might take a while, but we don't have to watch that whole time. I can explain some of these other things. So let's get into what do we need to do in order to get this to work how we have here. So one of the first things you have to do, you'll go to a website called Make WordPress and CLI. And initially when you maybe land on this or maybe another page, maybe you find the GitHub, there isn't really any clear direction, right? Like where do I go? Where do I download? How does this work exactly? There's the handbook here, which is one of the main links. And this is kind of what you want. The handbook helps get you going for what the commands are, installing. So now I used to use Composer to download this, but I found that on Windows it works really well to just download this FAR file and then provide a link to that. So you can see here, you can just click that and it'll download it, and there it is in your downloads folder. But what you want to do, you don't want to keep it there. You probably want to put it in a different place on your machine, so that way you can always reference it, right? Because you probably don't want to leave this in your downloads. You want to keep this nice and tidy. So what I end up doing is creating a directory under my user. I just call it utilities, and you can see some of the utilities that I have here. Commander, some SSL certs you saw in another video, and then we've got the WordPress CLI here, and then we've got the WordPress coding standards, which I'll show you that in another video. But for the CLI, you can see there's my FAR file, and then I've also got this BAT file, and that helps me have that shortcut command where I don't always have to type in my terminal wp-cli.far. Like, we don't want to have to run that every time, so we create a little alias so that way we can simply say WP, and then it references that. So you can see here that this finished downloading. So if we come up here and now you can see that WordPress is in fact installed in that directory. So that's pretty nice. Go in here, check it out, and now there's all the WordPress files and folders. So it's pretty handy when you need to quickly download WordPress. You don't have to go to the website and download and then unzip and all these other steps. It also helps when you need to maintain a lot of different sites and perform updates. It just makes it really quick. I know that this might, to a beginner, might seem a little daunting, or why would I need this, or feel a little uneasy. I know that's kind of how I felt anytime I had to work within command line stuff. It just wasn't my go-to, but I found that I really do enjoy it, and it is pretty easy once you get it set up. So let's see, how do we finish this install here? So we've got lots of different recommended ways to install. Okay, yeah, so we have Git, Composer, which again I used in the past and it worked really well. And this is how you would basically do it. Once you've got Composer set up, you could just do this command here and require it everywhere. So you could use the CLI throughout anywhere in your directories. If you have Homebrew, this would probably be good for a Mac. Docker as well, but for the Windows, as you can see, Once we download that file, we create this little bat file here and then put this command in it, and then you just reference what path this file is located. And then you'll be able to use that no matter where you want. It's also mentioning to add this to your path. So you might be wondering, well, what is that in your path? So what that essentially means, we are come over here, open up System, and search for environment variables. When you get to this, you'll be able to edit this, and then you can see here how we've got the location of where the WP-CLI is. So that's how you add that to your path. And I always found that confusing, or how do you do that? You just come up here, click New, and then you can paste in a path to where something is located. And then just hit OK. Again, you can also add the path here to the user variables. Now that that's installed, we can now run some additional commands. Now, please note that just because this is downloaded, we don't have a WP config file set up. We only have the sample file. So if I were to do WP plugin, well, that's a valid command, but notice that it's saying that, this file isn't found. So just because something isn't working correctly right away, make sure that everything else is installed and set up to use those commands. So if I were to come over here and go into another project on my machine that already has that config file set up, and then I do WP plugin, watch what happens. We now see all the other various commands that we can do. So I can do WP plugin list, for example, and that'll list out all the plugins. It shows me what's active, if there's updates needed, and the version number. So this Gravity Form 1, it's inactive, there's no update available, and that's the version that I have so far. So pretty handy. There's lots of other commands that you can use with this. I typically just stick to downloading, installing, and updating, managing plugins, that kind of thing. If you're wanting something more advanced or like to see some other commands used, let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to help you figure that out. So hope you found that useful, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, later.